Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas, everyone! I wanted to read some stories to you that have to do with Christmas. The first one is called Santa is Coming to Ohio. Well, boomed Santa, have all the children from Ohio been good this year?
Well, mostly, answered the little old elf as he bustled across the busy workshop to Santa's desk.
Santa peered down at the elf from behind the tall, teetering piles of letters that the children of Ohio had sent him. Mostly? Asked Santa, looking over the top of his glasses.
Yes, but they've all been especially good in the last few days, said the elf.
Jolly good, chuckled Santa. Then we better get their presents loaded up. Even though the sack of presents was really, really big, and the elves were really, really small, they seemed to have no trouble loading it onto Santa's sleigh. Though how they managed to fit such a big sack onto one little sleigh, even they didn't know. But somehow, they did. Splendid, boomed Santa. We're ready to go.
Not quite yet, Santa, said the little old elf. One of our reindeer is missing.
Missing? Which reindeer is missing? Asked Santa.
The youngest one, Santa, said the elf. It's his first flight tonight. I've called him, but...
Just then a young reindeer strolled up, munching on a large carrot. Where have you been? Asked Santa. The youngest reindeer was crunching so loudly that it was no wonder he hadn't heard the little old elf calling. Oh, well, never mind, said Santa, giving the reindeer a little wink. He took out his Santa nav and tapped in the coordinates for Ohio. This will guide us to Ohio in no time. Crunch, 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 went the carrot. With the flick of the reins and the jerk of a harness, off they went, through the sky. Ho, 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 laughed Santa. We'll soon have these presents delivered to the Buckeye State. Santa's sleigh flew through the starry night, heading south across the Arctic Ocean. On they flew in the wintry air, crossing over Canada. In the wink of an eye, the sleigh was flying over Michigan and on to Ohio. The youngest reindeer was very excited. He had never been away from the North Pole before. Well, Santa's old fingers aren't turning the pages very well. They had just crossed over Lake Erie when suddenly they ran into a blizzard. Snowflakes swirled around the sleigh. They couldn't see a thing. The youngest reindeer was getting a bit worried, but Santa didn't seem concerned. In 2 miles, said the Santa Nav in a bossy lady's voice. Keep left at the next star. But ma'am, Santa blustered, I can't see any stars in all this snow. Soon they were hopelessly lost. Then, through the howling blizzard, the youngest reindeer heard a faint ringing sound. Ding dong, ding dong. He looked over at the old reindeer with the red nose. Rudolph. But he had his head down. Ding dong, ding dong. There was that sound again, like church bells ringing. The youngest reindeer turned around to look at Santa, but Santa wasn't listening. He seemed to be arguing with a little box with buttons on it. With a flick of the harness and a jerk of the reins, the youngest reindeer gave a sharp tug and headed off toward the sound of the bells, pulling Santa and his sleigh behind him. "Whoa!" cried Santa, pulling his hat straight. "What's going on?" Then, to his surprise, he heard the ringing sound. "Well done, young reindeer," he shouted cheerfully. "It must be the bells of St. Joseph Cathedral in Columbus. Don't worry, children. Santa is coming." Then suddenly, crunch! The sleigh hit something as it plummeted through the snow clouds. "You have arrived," said the Santa Nav unhelpfully. Finally, when the snow had died down and the clouds parted, Santa discovered exactly where they were. Stuck. Right on the very top of the Levesque Tower. "Everybody, pull!" The reindeer pulled with all their might. At last, with a screeching noise, the sleigh scraped clear of the tower, and Santa steered them past Columbus City Hall, above the Arena District, over North Market, and down into Goodale Park. Luckily, there was no real damage done, but the packages had all been jumbled up. Santa quickly sorted the presents into order again. "All right," said Santa. "Thanks to this young reindeer, I know exactly where we are. Don't worry, children. Santa is coming." Santa drove his sleigh expertly from rooftop to rooftop all over Ohio, popping out and in and out of chimneys as fast as he could. There were big chimneys in Bowling Green and small chimneys in Youngstown. He squeezed down thin chimneys in Athens and plummeted down fat chimneys in Worcester. The youngest reindeer was amazed at how quickly they went. Santa never seemed to get tired at all. And it looked like the children in Ohio were going to be very lucky this year. But the youngest reindeer was starting to feel a bit weary and quite hungry, too. In house after house, Santa delved inside his sack for packages of every shape and size. He piled them under the Christmas trees and carefully filled up the stockings with surprises. In house after house, the good children of Ohio had left out a large plate of cookies, a small glass of milk, and a big, crunchy carrot. Santa took a little bite out of each cookie, a tiny sip of milk, wiped his beard, and popped the carrots into his sack. From Toledo to Dayton, from Lebanon to Cincinnati to Cleveland, from Akron to Findlay, and all the places in between, Santa and his sleigh visited every house in Ohio. Santa delivered presents to Andrew, Allison, Anna, Arabella, Archie, Ashley, the list went on and on, Zach, Zara, Zeb, and Zoe. Finally, Santa had delivered the last present on his long Ohio list. "Great moons and stars," sighed Santa. "It's past midnight, and my sack seems as heavy as ever. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone." Santa opened his sack to check, but it was full of juicy, crunchy carrots. Santa divided the carrots among all the reindeer. "Well done," he said, patting the youngest reindeer gently on the nose. But the youngest reindeer didn't hear him. He was too busy munching. Then it was time to set off for home. Santa reset his Santa Nav for the North Pole, and soon they were speeding past the Horseshoe, above Lane Avenue Bridge, and over Columbus through the crisp, starry night. "Ho, ho, ho," laughed Santa. "Merry Christmas, Ohio." That's one of my favorites. I hope you enjoyed it too. The next story is also a reindeer story, but this one is a little different. It's called Where's Prancer? Sounds like we got some detective work to do on this one. It was early in the morning when Santa Claus returned to the North Pole after his big trip all over the world. I'm tired and I guess you are too, he said to the reindeer. So suppose you go to the stable and I'll see you all later. Santa went into the house and had a nice hot cup of tea. Then he put 8 fresh carrots in a basket and took them out to the stable. Here, Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, and Vixen, he said. Here, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen. Here's a nice carrot for each of you. There was 1 carrot left over. 1 reindeer is missing, said Santa. Who is it? It isn't I, said Dasher. It isn't I, said Dancer. It isn't I, said Vixen. It isn't us either, said Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen. It's Prancer, said Santa. Where can he be? He was with us in Australia, said Dasher. He was with us in Sweden, said Dancer. He was with us in the Philippine Islands, said Vixen. He was also with us in Sioux City, Iowa, said Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen. Keep thinking, boys, said Santa. If we don't get Prancer back, there may never be another Christmas. Everybody knows I have to have 8 reindeer. The telephone rang. Maybe it's Prancer, cried Santa. It was only a wrong number. There was a knock at the door. Maybe it's Prancer, cried Santa. It was only a walrus knocking ice off his flippers. We remember, said the reindeer. It was Philadelphia. That was the last place we saw him. Quick, to the sleigh, shouted Santa. They're in the second to lose. In the twinkling of an eye, they were in the city of brotherly love. Spread out now and look, said Santa. Dasher went up Market Street, but all he saw was a cat. Dancer went up Broad Street, but all he saw was a dog. Vixen went into Fairmount Park, but all he saw was a squirrel. Comet and Cupid met at Independence Hall. A fine structure, said Comet. Yes, said Cupid, but where's Prancer? Here he is, shouted Donner. That's only your reflection, said Blitzer. A police car drove up. A reindeer was just spotted on Chestnut Street. Did you lose one? Asked the policeman. Yes, said Santa. Thank you. We'll go get him. Sure enough, there was Prancer. Where have you been? Said Santa. We were worried about you. I just wanted to see how people look on Christmas Day, said Prancer. We're always getting here the night before. Let's all see, said Santa. They saw many happy faces and were glad they had helped make them that way. Then Santa said, now we must go home. Prancer sat with Santa and enjoyed the ride. Once more, Santa made himself a nice hot cup of tea, and once more he took 8 fresh carrots out to the stable. This time, there was none left. Merry Christmas! I like that one. Glad they got Prancer back. This next story I want to read to you is not a reindeer story. It's a cookie story. And it might make you hungry by the end, because it will me, I'm sure. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and there on a plate was a gingerbread boy awaiting his fate. The children had baked him and dressed him with care, using currants for eyes and icing for hair. They knew that St. Nick, with his overstuffed pack, would be sorely in need of a fine midnight snack. He doesn't look too happy, does he? The Christmas tree sparkled, strands of lights glimmered, snowflakes and garlands all glittered and shimmered. The gingerbread boy, despite all his beauty, nervously pondered his Christmas Eve duty. Later that evening, when he'd be devoured, would he be brave or a crumbling coward? Looks like trouble's brewing. Bursting into the room, "Is all this for us?" Two puppies came bounding and started a fuss. They leaped and they snapped and they played tug of war. They pounced and they pawed and they ripped and they tore. The gingerbread boy thought, "Oh, what can be done? These puppies are having the wrong kind of fun." He knew to save Christmas he'd need to take action. "I'll make myself into a doggy distraction." "Come, rascal, come, Rowdy," he called him by name. "I'll show you a much better Christmas Eve game." "A biscuit," they barked, with howling jog joy, "and one that can talk. It's a gingerbread boy." And what he did next made those naughty pups stop. "Look at me," Cookie cried. "I can spin like a top." He twirled and he spun until he was dizzy, keeping exuberant puppies quite busy. Tails wagging, tongues drooling, the pups were entranced, while the gingerbread boy deliciously danced. A jingling of Christmas bells came from outside. "It's Santa," the pups quipped. "Woof! Let's go hide." Would Santa start with his legs or his head? Would he nibble his arms or his buttons instead? Santa said, "On my radar, there was trouble reported. Could you lend me a hand getting all of this sorted?" The gingerbread boy helped jolly St. Nick. With morning approaching, they had to be quick. When the work was all done, Cookie climbed on the dish. He looked to the stars and made one Christmas wish. Then he heard Santa say, "We make a great team. Come hop in my sleigh. There are more homes to visit before Christmas Day, and I need you for duty up at the North Pole." Toy soldier saluted and gave a drum roll. Christmas morning, the children found gifts and a note. In festive green ink, Santa Claus wrote, "I've searched the world over and found at this stop the perfect night watchman to mind my toy shop. And as for those pups, they created a mess. I've left something special for them. Can you guess?" Gift certificate, good to the bone puppy school for obedience classes. Sounds like those dogs need a little training. All right, for our fourth book, I have another reindeer story, but this one is about the little reindeer. The little reindeer wondered what all the fuss was about. He could see lights blazing in the windows of the snow-covered buildings. Shadowy figures rushed in and out of the doorways, carrying mysterious bundles. The little reindeer picked his way through deep snow toward the biggest building. As he got closer, he could hear singing and banging, whirring and rustling. The little reindeer peeked around the door into the warm, noisy room. Amazing animals were streaming between rows of singing people. The little reindeer moved farther into the room and found himself being carried along with the rest of the animals. He tried to back away, but was pushed forward by the animals pressing from behind. Suddenly, they all disappeared in a blizzard of colored paper. He was turned over and over in swirling colors. Then he went black and cold, and things bumped down on him until he couldn't move. He heard jingling bells and cheering and felt a big whoosh. For hours they seemed to stop and start and swoop up and down until the little reindeer was tumbling head over hoofs again. He tried to move his legs and managed to stand up, but he was relieved to feel the softness of snow beneath his hoofs. But he still couldn't see anything. The little reindeer stood in the darkness, surrounded by strange sounds. Then he heard footsteps crunching toward him. Suddenly he found himself staring at an astonished face and a smile. "Wow, what a present!" The boy picked him up and danced around and around in the snow. "But where can I keep you? There are no pets allowed in this building." "I know. You can stay up here with my pigeons." The boy opened the door of a large shed at one end of the roof. Immediately the sky filled with birds. In a corner of the shed, the boy made a straw bed for the reindeer and brought milk and 4 kinds of cereal. "Tomorrow we can try different things to eat and see what you like best." 2 by 2, the pigeons returned to the shed. They didn't seem to mind the new visitor at all. Each day the boy brought food and milk. The reindeer liked peanut butter sandwiches best of all. While the pigeons flew higher and higher in the sky, the boy and the reindeer strolled around the roof and watched the busy city life below. The weather gradually grew warmer, and the little reindeer grew bigger. One day, when the boy opened the door to let out the pigeons, the reindeer flew out with them. The reindeer didn't fly far that first time, just across to the neighboring building and back. But as the days passed, he flew further and further. The boy was overjoyed. He had told no one about his wonderful Christmas pet because he knew he would not be allowed to keep him. By early summer, the reindeer was big enough to give the boy rides around the roof. Then one evening, they flew together across the roofs of the city. They flew together every night of the long summer and over the golden leaves of autumn. When the first snowflakes of winter began to fall, the boy noticed a look of sadness in the reindeer's eyes. The boy hugged him as always, but the reindeer looked up at the swiftly moving gray clouds inside. The boy knew that the reindeer had to go back to his real home. He knew his reindeer was going to be one of the few chosen to carry the sleigh full of presents across the night skies. On Christmas Eve, the boy gave the reindeer his favorite dinner, and the pigeons sang. They were still singing when he kissed the reindeer goodnight. From his bed, just as he started to dream, the boy thought he heard jingle bells. The next morning, he rushed up to the roof, but the reindeer had gone. There were sleigh tracks in the snow. When he opened the shed and all the pigeons flew out, the boy saw that each had a red ribbon collar and a little jingle bell. In the reindeer's bed of straw was a note. Dear boy, thank you for looking after my smallest reindeer. See you next year. Love, Santa. Through the next spring, summer, and autumn, the boy heard the tinkling and jingling of bells each time the pigeons flew. And on Christmas Eve, when he heard the real jingle bells coming down from the snowy sky, he was waiting on the roof with milk and peanut butter sandwiches. I like that one. Okay, our final book is a classic, A Charlie Brown Christmas. Even if you've heard this one before, I think you'll love hearing it again, or maybe you've seen the movie. A Charlie Brown Christmas. Pictures are worth showing before we even start reading. The whole Peanuts gang. Christmas time was here, the time when snowflakes fell softly and the sounds of carols rang through the air. It was the time filled with happiness, and for children everywhere, it was their favorite time of year. But one little boy wasn't feeling very excited about Christmas. I just don't understand Christmas, Charlie Brown said as the light snow began to fall. I might be getting presents, sending Christmas cards, decorating trees, but I'm still not happy. I always end up feeling depressed. You're the only person I know who can take a wonderful season like Christmas and turn it into a problem, Linus replied. Lucy's right. Of all the Charlie Browns in the world, you're the Charlie Browniest. At the local skating pond, the boys found their friends playing a round of Crack-the-Whip. Snoopy grabbed Linus's blanket to drag him onto the ice, but he caught Charlie Brown in it and sent him flying into a snowbank. Charlie Brown wasn't surprised. Things like that always happened to him. And the holiday season, when he didn't get cards or even his own dog ignored him, only made it more obvious. He needed someone to talk to. Wonder who it'll be. Lucy dashed over to her psychiatry booth to meet Charlie Brown. May I help you? She asked. I'm in sad shape, Charlie Brown replied with a sigh. My trouble is Christmas. I just don't understand it. Instead of feeling happy, I feel sort of let down. Lucy knew just how to fix Charlie Brown's problem. You need to get involved in a Christmas project, she declared. How would you like to be the director of our Christmas play? Me? But I don't know anything about directing a Christmas play, Charlie Brown fretted. Don't worry, I'll be there to help you, Lucy said. I'll meet you in the auditorium. See how that goes. Just then, Snoopy walked past, carrying a box filled with decorations. Charlie Brown followed Snoopy back to his doghouse. What's going on here? Charlie Brown asked Snoopy. Snoopy handed him a flyer, and Charlie Brown read, Find the true meaning of Christmas. Win money, money, money at the spectacular, super colossal lights and display contest. Oh no, my own dog has gone commercial. I can't stand it. Charlie Brown threw the flyer on the ground. On his way to the auditorium, he ran into his sister Sally. "I've been looking for you, big brother," she said sweetly. "Would you please write a letter to Santa Claus for me?" Sally knew exactly what she wanted, but her list was so long. She decided it would be easier to ask for money. "How about 10s and 20s?" she suggested. "10s and 20s? Oh, even my baby sister!" Charlie Brown groaned. Surely Christmas was about more than money and presents. In the auditorium, the whole Peanuts gang danced to a jazzy tune that Schroeder played on his piano. Charlie Brown walked onto the stage. "Let's get right down to work," he said. "It's important that you pay strict attention to the director. Am I right?" I said, "Am I right?" But no one paid attention to Charlie Brown. They had started to dance again. "Stop the music," Charlie Brown yelled. "We're going to do this play, and we're going to do it right. Lucy, pass out those scripts and costumes." One by one, the kids found out their roles in the play. Frida would play the innkeeper's wife. Pigpen would play the innkeeper. Shermie would play the shepherd. And Snoopy would play all the animals in the script, and even some that weren't. "Let's rehearse the scene at the end," directed Charlie Brown. "Let's take it from the top. Places, action." But once more the kids started dancing and fooling around. Charlie Brown rolled his eyes. Good grief. "That does it," Charlie Brown exclaimed. "If we're ever going to get this play off the ground, we've got to have some cooperation." "Let's face it," replied Lucy. "We all know that Christmas is a big commercial racket." "Well, this is one play that's not going to be commercial," Charlie Brown insisted. "We need the proper mood. We need a Christmas tree." Lucy nodded excitedly. "A great, big, shiny aluminum Christmas tree. That's it, Charlie Brown. You get the tree, I'll handle this crowd." "Okay, I'll take Linus with me. The rest of you, practice your lines," Charlie Brown said firmly. "Get the biggest aluminum tree you can find, Charlie Brown," called Lucy. "Yeah, do something right for a change, Charlie Brown," added Peppermint Patty as the boys walked into the cold winter night. They followed a set of gleaming spotlights to a Christmas tree lot. It was filled with shiny metal trees, polka-dotted trees, and trees in every color of the rainbow. Clank, clank, clank. Linus knocked on one of the metal trees. "Gee, do they still make wooden Christmas trees?" asked Linus. He didn't see anything like that in the Christmas tree lot. Then Charlie Brown spotted a small, scraggly pine tree. It had a wooden trunk and soft green needles. "This little one here seems to need a good home," he said excitedly. "I don't know, Charlie Brown," Linus said. "Remember what Lucy said. This doesn't seem to fit the modern spirit." "I don't care," Charlie Brown insisted. "We'll decorate it and it will be just right for our play. Besides, I think it needs me." Soon Charlie Brown and Linus walked onto the stage. "We're back," Charlie Brown announced as he set the tree on top of Schroeder's piano. When the kids rushed over to see the tree, their mouths dropped in shock. The scraggly little tree was not what they had expected. "You were supposed to get a good tree. Can't you even tell a good tree from a poor tree?" Lucy asked. "You're hopeless, Charlie Brown," added Peppermint Patty. Charlie Brown sighed. "I shouldn't have picked this little tree. Everything I do turns into a disaster. I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about? He exclaimed. Sure, Charlie Brown, replied Linus. I can tell you what Christmas is all about. Linus crossed to the center of the stage. The lights dimmed and the spotlight shone down on him. And there were shepherds in the field, keeping watch over their flocks by night. The angel came and said, Fear not, for behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which will be to all the people. For unto you is born this day a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. Everyone was silent when Linus finished. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown, he said finally. Charlie Brown picked up the tree and walked outside. He stared up at the night sky. Linus is right, he said. I won't let this commercialization ruin my Christmas. I'll take this little tree home and decorate it, and I'll show it that it will really work in our play. When he passed Snoopy's doghouse, Charlie Brown pulled a shiny red ornament off the doghouse and proudly hung it on the tree. But the tiny tree buckled under the weight of the ornament. A look of horror crossed Charlie Brown's face. I've killed it! Oh, everything I touch gets ruined! His head hung in defeat. Charlie Brown sadly walked away. Then the rest of the Peanuts gang arrived. I never thought it was such a bad little tree, Linus said. He straightened the tree's bent trunk and wrapped his blanket around its base. It's not bad at all, really. It just needs a little love. Without speaking, the other kids took the lights and ornaments off Snoopy's doghouse and used them to decorate. Before their very eyes, it transformed into a beautiful Christmas tree. Charlie Brown walked up to the group and barely recognized the tree. What's going on here? He exclaimed. Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown, the kids exclaimed. And together, gathered around that beautiful Christmas tree, they all began to sing. Well, I hope you enjoyed those stories for Christmas, and I hope that you and your family have a wonderful Christmas yourselves. We'll see you soon. Merry Christmas, everyone.